Hey everybody, this is Steve, and this is the time to get healthy. Last week, Christian and I shared 5 tips to help you build healthy habits. But we ended the episode with a question. What exactly does it mean to be healthy? That's an important question to ask now because with the coronavirus still going around, people are worried about getting sick. And even if they're physically okay, people have been having a hard time with social distancing and having to stay home. So because of everything going on right now, we wanted to break this question down into 4 key ideas that you can take away. 4 key ideas that can help you develop a life that's truly healthy, even at a time when sickness is on everyone's mind. Though we framed these 4 ideas for what we're dealing with today with the coronavirus situation, you can apply them all the time. Christian, why don't you start us off?
The first key idea is that health has 4 dimensions: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. Like Steve mentioned, health has been on everybody's mind for the last few months. From guidance about proper hand washing to instructions about how to wear a face mask the right way, we've all heard advice on how to stay healthy. And sure, physical health is important, but it's not the whole story. Because as human beings, we are more than just our bodies. As Father George Florovsky once wrote, "A body without a soul is but a corpse, and a soul without a body is a ghost." Human beings are complex. We are not just bodies, and we're not just souls. Human beings are made up of both soul and body, both the physical and the non-physical. And that means that our overall health as human beings has a lot of layers to it: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. To be healthy means to develop all of those parts of life, not just 1 or 2. In fact, when we neglect even just one of those aspects, the other ones suffer. Being physically healthy, for instance, means a lot more than simply not getting sick. And research actually shows that people who have secure, emotionally bonded relationships are less likely to suffer from things like high blood pressure or heart attack. People with secure and healthy relationships are more likely to be physically healthy. Our mental, spiritual, emotional health is not only just as important as our physical health, they directly impact it. Consider depression and anxiety. These mental and emotional difficulties often have physical symptoms. A depressed person may not sleep as well. He may gain or lose a lot of weight. It's all connected. And we need to recognize that disregarding any one of the 4 is going to affect the other aspects of what it means to be a healthy human. So yeah, we've been told to wash our hands and to pay attention to our physical health, which is good and important. For real, please wash your hands. Because, And there are also so many other things that make up a truly healthy and thriving human life. Remember, we're more than just bodies. We are embodied spirits. And that means that our mental, emotional, and spiritual health is just as important as our physical health. So how can you start putting this idea into practice? You can divide a piece of paper into 4 columns: mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Write down all of the practices and habits that you already have that help you stay healthy in each of those areas. And then do the same on a second sheet of paper and write down all of the practices and habits that you already have that aren't good for your health. And then, based on what you learned in the last episode, you can start working on how to keep developing your good habits and how to tweak bad ones into good ones. To get you started, we've even created a PDF that you can download and print out.
The second key to being a healthy human is to know when to push yourself and know when to ease up. So now we know that our minds and bodies and souls are all connected, which is a good thing because we can't see our minds, we can't measure our souls. But since body and soul are connected, our bodies can actually show us what is going on deep inside. If we learn to listen to our bodies, to emotions, to physical sensations, we can actually get a sense for what's happening in our minds and hearts. This is something we can always keep in mind, but I think this is going to be especially important in the weeks ahead as more churches and public places start to open up again. After spending a couple months keeping physically distant from other people, getting back on the bus or back into a room full of people isn't going to be easy. It's natural to feel, triggered, afraid, and uncertain about what the future holds. To be honest, just the thought of getting back on the subway here in New York is already creating a lot of anxiety for me. When things might feel emotionally or mentally challenging, it's super important to take your time. And it's helpful to realize that your body might be giving you certain clues about how you're doing. Remember, Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health are all wrapped up together. Have you ever noticed that when you're a little afraid, you may start to sweat? Or that when you're a little anxious, your stomach may start to hurt? Those physical signs don't mean we should simply give in to the fear or anxiety we're experiencing. But it also doesn't mean that we should ignore it either. Part of being a healthy human is constantly growing. Constantly pushing yourself to the edge of your discomfort, but not much further than that. In order to lean into our discomfort, we may have to ask ourselves what we need to do that might seem a little scary. We can lean into our discomfort and ask, what's the next faithful thing we can do? How can we put our trust in God to the extent that we can, despite our fears or worries or doubts? Not denying our discomfort, but also not running from it. Maybe it means wearing a face mask when you go back to church, just so you don't totally melt down in the nave. Maybe it means not venerating icons with your lips, but simply bowing before them with respect. Either way, the key is to push yourself to the edge of discomfort, not off the edge. Because if we push ourselves too far, that can have negative consequences on our health. Think about the last time you said something mean when you were hangry, for example. You don't want more of that in your life. Remember, St. John Chrysostom said that keeping a fast, abstaining from foods like meat and dairy, is useless if, at the same time, we devour our brothers. Pushing ourselves stops being healthy when it negatively affects the way we treat others. So how can you start putting this idea into practice? Well, remember that PDF that Christian mentioned? It also has pages where you can journal about this second key idea. You'll find space to write down the difficult things in your life that are testing your limits. And it'll offer you some simple questions to help you push yourself just enough to grow, but not enough that you'll end up hurting yourself.
The third key to being a healthy human is knowing that it's okay to feel negative emotions. Emotions are often complicated, and they're likely to get extra complicated in the weeks ahead. You're probably going to feel a bunch of tangled emotions that first time you go back to work or to school. A mix of happiness and fear. And honestly, going back to church for the first time is probably going to feel the same way. And noticing that fear might make you feel a little ashamed. Does being afraid to go back to church mean that you're not a good enough Christian or that you aren't pious enough? Does it somehow make you a bad person? Well, no. Because there's nothing inherently bad about feeling afraid to do anything, including going back to church. Fear is a natural emotion. It's an instinctual response that helps us become aware when something doesn't feel quite right. Everybody feels afraid sometimes. And the healthy response to a negative emotion like fear isn't simply to stuff it down or pretend that it's not there. No, what's important is learning how to process our fear, knowing what to do with it. If you feel uncomfortable going back to church without a mask, that's okay. I went back to church last week, and guess what? I wore a mask. What's important is that we're there, and that we're doing the next faithful thing. If you feel like you need to stand as far from other people as you can, that's okay. I did the same thing. Whether or not we feel afraid isn't the most important thing. What's important is that we're doing the best that we can in the face of our fear. But allowing yourself to actually feel your emotions and to process them, even your negative ones, is different than pretending that they aren't there at all. If we don't process our fear the right way, it can be spiritually, emotionally, and physically damaging. Fear is not an invitation to beat ourselves up. It's not an invitation to believe that we're not good enough. Having a negative emotion isn't a bad thing, and it doesn't mean that you're bad. Being a healthy human means realizing that and learning to process and manage your emotions, not to let your emotions manage you. So, how can you start putting this idea into practice? In the PDF that we already mentioned, you'll find space to write down the negative emotions that you're currently feeling. You'll be able to journal about what those negative emotions are holding you back from. You'll be able to ask yourself what your emotions are telling you that you need, and you'll be able to work through how you can take your next faithful step.
The fourth key to being a healthy human is to lean on others. One of the most important things that we can learn about ourselves is that being a human isn't something we do in isolation. When we're little, we draw strength from the stronger, wiser adults that guide us and keep us safe. But that need for other people doesn't go away when we grow up. No matter how old we are, we need to keep turning to others, to friends and family who guide us and watch out for us and provide us with a safe place to be us. We all need someone we can be honest with, someone who can know how we're doing, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Someone we can tell when we're not feeling well, when we're having a bad day. Someone we can turn to when we just can't even. When it feels like we can't stand on our own 2 feet, we need someone to lean on. But having people we can turn to and lean on isn't easy. It can be scary to let others in, to let people know how you're really doing and who you really are. But it's part of being not just a human, but a healthy human. So how can you start putting this idea into practice? In the PDF we keep mentioning, you'll find space to write down the people you turn to, the people who know you best. It's a chance to be honest, to think about the most important relationships in your life. If you find that you've lost touch with those people, well, this is an invitation to reconnect. And if you're not talking to those people as much as you'd like, this is a chance to start building a more healthy habit of communication. You'll also find space to work through your prayer rule because as Christians, we don't just turn to friends and family. We also turn to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Regular prayer is part of how we lean on the Lord.
There you have it. 4 key ideas to help you be a healthy human, especially now during this crazy and health-concerned time. We hope you'll download the journal and work through how you're doing and the small, easy next steps that you can take to become more healthy, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And keep the 4th idea we shared in mind, to lean on others, because you don't need to go through this journaling process alone. You can spend some time with your family or friends, the people who are closest to you. You know how when you're not feeling well, you take a sick day and stay home from school or work? Well, what if we all took a healthy day together? What if we all took a day to pause, to take a closer look at how we're really doing, and took small, easy steps to becoming healthy humans? We hope that these last 2 episodes will help you and the people in your life do exactly that.
So let's be the bee and take our next steps to become healthy humans together.
Be the bee and live orthodoxy.
Remember to like and subscribe and share. I'll see you all next week. Remember to subscribe to our channel and click on the little bell so you never miss an episode. And share this video with your friends and family as we all make our way to the Lord together. Thanks for watching, and God bless you.